Good evening. Good night. Good morning. Good afternoon, worldwide. We are here. We are here. Tonight, yeah, you see, me and my co-host, we are melting pot right or so. But tonight I'll speak to the professor himself. Professor, Christopher Charles, right? And him came out with something in the Gleaner the other day about the statistic. So, we have a carry man for him come mention, come talk about it because, me I tell you, it opened a lot of eyes around here. Well, we have been saying the same thing over and over again. Because when we look on from 2016 to 2024, we never put 2025. For our two-term government, this is the worst one with the highest murder toll on Theme Watch with 12,400 and nearly 12,500. Never in the history of Jamaica. Because every two-term government, you talk about 1962 to 72, 72 to 80, 80 to 90. Those two-term government have them kind of murder upon them watch. But what they want to do, they want to wait up with last year murder and say they might do something. But the professor there have to work it out for us here. So make with us start the show. Make us start the show and then get into the meat of the matter right now. Okay? All right.
Some we are beat it till they are my burn. We now make them get in on them and again. None of them boy that we none of them. We in lump some we are beat it till they are my burn. We now make them get in on them and again. None of them boy that we none of them. We alone some rise up the bomb and
when people like the government of a country, it's the servants protect the people of that country, not to put them life in misery. You understand me, Luciano? Over there, man.
Government, stop pressuring the poor.
Oppression.
Politicians, your judgment coming for sure.
Serious
It's a government in your regiment. Stop pressuring the poor.
We can't take it no more,
Politicians, your judgment coming for sure.
Yo, politician, for the evil's mission, who know we blame. True money and power and fame. We're gonna find out the youth, them really don't believe. Give them big gun and brainwash them brain. Yo, wanna buy them cow, wanna buy them clothes, and buy them.
Yes, we are back now, man. We are up. We're up. So, Professor Charles, we're going to open the floor to you right away, And we're going to show the graph. And then we're going to open up the floor to you right away, right? We're going to show you a graph. This is a graph.
Yeah. All right. What I've shown here is a bar chart which shows you going from left to right the homicide rate per 1,000 from 1962 going across to 2024. And it's very important that we look at any problem that is a major problem in society, like the homicide rate. We look at it over time. Often in Jamaica, what happens is that last year's murder rate is compared, or the difference between last year's murder rate, right, is compared to the difference between last year and the previous year, is taken as the standard to understand what is happening. So that is a dishonest way to look at the number, and a very foolish way. Because if you look at the graph, the bar chart rather, from 1962 to 2024, you see starting from around about 1997, the graph will go up and down, but the graph is still trending largely upwards. What it means, bar chart that is, what it means is that since 1962, we have had an exponential increase in homicides in Jamaica. So should we acknowledge the drop in homicide? In 2023, it was 40.9, and then per 100. In 2024, it was 40.4. You can see to the extreme right, the last bar or column is much shorter than the bar is much shorter than the 2023, showing that there's a drop. And in a high violent society like Jamaica, we should be happy when there's any drop in the killing, when there's any drop in the homicide. We should be appreciative. If it is even one life that was appreciative. However, that's a far cry from starting to celebrate that the homicide rate is now trending downwards. And if you look at the 2024 bar, the one to the extreme right, you will at 40.4 per 100,000. If you look going to your left, you will see several years where we have had similar drops. So the rate has gone down and it went back up.
Yes.
So it's foolish and to just use 1 year. If you have a problem that is changing, that is ongoing, you need to look at the trend. You need to look at the problem over time. So from my assessment, an idea, any one of them, within the army, the police, the government, and they have academics who they have political activists who parade as academics. Any one of them to come out and say otherwise. It makes no sense to look at just the difference between 2024 and 2023. Of course, that's a drop, but we have had similar drops before.
Yes.
So the rate moving up and down, and if you've had similar drops before, what are you celebrating? Because in the previous drops, you're not able to foster a continuous decrease.
Yes.
Right? You were not able to get a continuous decrease or a fall, as my friend and colleague Herbert Girl said, a precipitous fall. It therefore means if the rate is going up and down, the police is not controlling it.
I know that, yes.
If the police was controlling it, it would go down, continue to go down, right? And then level off at an acceptable rate. So for example, in 1962, and I'm going from memory now, the homicide rate was about 3.7.
Yes.
Per 100,000. In 1970, about 9.7 or something like that.
9.7.
Yeah. But in 2024, it is 40.4. So yes, we should appreciate the drop. But if you look from where we're coming from in 1962, you realize that across governments, we have an exponential increase in homicides, and we still have a murder problem. We still have a homicide problem in the country. So the long view suggests that yes, there is a drop in 2024, but that drop is not new. The bar chart tells us that you have had previous drops, right? So the rate is going up and down. And if it's going up and down, it means the government is not, or the police is not controlling it. So this bar chart shows you that we have a very serious homicidal problem in the country, and it's too early to celebrate. We can't celebrate 1 year when we have 60 odd years of homicide rate numbers, the rate, and there's a precipitous increase. So for me, we need to understand what is a problem using the long view. Right? This is something I learned decades ago when I was in 10th grade or 4th form in high school. My generation, we were the CXC guinea pigs. We were doing GCE and we were also doing CXCs. And we were told that when you're looking at data, you need to look at a trend. And the minimum is 5 years. Some people say 6. So while we should be happy anytime there's a fall, the fall by itself, if it's not sustained and the rates are decreasing over time, we will bring it down to what it was in the early 70s or the 1960s, we still have a problem. Even if it came down to what it was in the early 1980s, it would still be a victory. Because the top bar there is 1980, that murderous year, and then it fell precipitously. So even if we bring it down to what it was in 82, or that would be a victory, and we are far from there. So I'm arguing that the celebration is premature because we have had similar drops without any solution, and the homicide rate remains relatively high, very high.
True. All right, so I'm saying the same thing. I'm Milton Pat saying the same thing because I don't see the reason why a police force would, come out and celebrate something like this. Because you do policing work, right? And you see something like this and you say yes, and because of the great work a man wants. So when it go up, what you going to tell me, say, you're a failure? Because I never hear them come out and say, well, we are failure. That's why it climbed so high, Like 2017, it was the third highest murder rate in the country. Whenever police come out and say, well, we are failure. We have come out, we apologize because we are failure. We never hear them say these kind of things before.
If you're gonna take credit for the decrease in any particular year, you have to take credit for the increase as well.
That's it. And then you have more increases more than decreases. So yes.
Keeps trending upward from left to right, because even though we're having drops over time, it's still generally upwards and we are still very high. So I taught a class in the Masters in National Security and Strategic Studies for a decade. Most of the students were police, senior police and military officers, correction officers, immigration officers, and so on. And I would routinely ask students, and they taught me a lot. I would say to them, can you stop, as a police officer, can you stop murders? Can you prevent murders? They would say no. And what I mean by this is, if John has a gun and he wants to kill Tom, John goes and he shoots Tom in the head. Right? Kills them. The police cannot stop something like that unless John thought somebody suspected and went to the cops, so the cops were prepared, or John was bragging that he's going to do it and when he's going to do it, and that never usually happens. Or when John is going to do it to shoot Tom, the police are on the scene and they're able to apprehend. That seldomly happens. So what it means is the police can't stop John from shooting Tom. What they can do from murdering Tom, what they can do is go after Tom and try to apprehend him. That's what they can do. However, about 70% of the homicides in Jamaica are committed by gangs. So the extent to which you can dismantle the gangs, you can control the homicide rate in that way. I was on a morning program about 2 months ago, and they had someone from the oversight, the crime oversight committee, whatever they call it, who lied. That person on the program said that we dismantled 185 gangs in Jamaica.
That's a lie.
That's a lie.
That's a lie.
And then so I said, where's the evidence? He said that's what he was told. That's a lie.
Yeah, you see what I'm telling you?
Fact that 70% of our murders are perpetrated by gangs. If we dismantle 185 gangs successfully, the homicide rate will go way down.
Yes.
Right? And there are reasons why the homicide rate can decline. That has nothing to do with the cops. And we know it's not them because it moves up and down.
Yeah, we know that. And next thing, you said something very important, right? With the gang and because you remember a lot of people had the revenge killing. So for instance, someone kills someone's father, but it's not just a father, it's a brother, and he's an uncle, and he's a cousin. And then, you know, in a ghetto, you have some people, them have other people who feel that I'm bad and they want the revenge. So it's harder for the police stop if them are going to take a revenge killing, because if them have a couple people around them where them can reach the weapon or do something, and them ought to get smarter, they will get the person. Because this is not one person you have to take out now, you know. It's a group of person you might don't know. And next thing now, the danger with gang, and we see it in a Tivoli, right? When you come up and you have big gang and you break it up, you're something tight most of the time. When you move the head for the gang and the gun's still there, then you cause in-house conflict, and then it causes more murder sometime. I'm right, Professor Charles, because some people now want to turn the top man, and the next man now want him turn top man, and everybody have fight for turf and war and everything, and it causes more chaos more than anything. Right?
This is the world over. And that's why the FBI, the feds in the US, they painstakingly monitor the gang, collect evidence. And they take many years and then they smash them. Because they have found that if you arrest the leader or you remove one gang, other gangs are going to fight to control the turf. Or if you remove the leader, they'll be infighting as to who control the gang. So you have to take them out as a complete, more than one, and then control that space. We tend not, as far as I can recall, I know of 2 cases where we took gang members to court and arrest most of them. And we have over 300 gangs in Jamaica. Right? So that person lied, that liar that they said to say we smashed 185 gangs is not true.
Not true.
Not true.
Matter of fact, we don't see through the courts. We don't see to the numbers because I know police are going right now in Jamaica. You see 100 there. But if you get rid of 185 gang, but we not see it in the courts and nowhere at all. It don't turn up. It's just not true. It cannot be true.
They're made up.
Yes, it cannot be true though. You want to answer a question?
Well, you know, just looking at the graph, yeah, it shows that the murder rate annually is very high. And in my opinion, humble opinion, the government should be celebrating a statistic of 40.3% per 100,000. Because, I mean, you know, that number is very high. When you look at, you know, our population and even the region where Jamaica is situated, we have the highest murder rate. And that is not something to be celebrating. If it shows that we have consecutive downward trend in the murder statistic, then that should be looked at as and recognized as an achievement.
Yeah, but
in
remember, sorry to cut you. Remember, we are admitting that any decline should be welcomed, but we have a similar before, and nothing happened. So we can't just see a drop and start to celebrate. Because if you look between 990 and 24, you'll see the drops. There are about 3 of them where we had that kind of drop. So why didn't we solve the problem then? So what I'm saying here, we don't know that the 2024 drop will be any different.
Well, my opinion is that.
Keep speaking. Just give me speaking. Give me a minute. Go ahead.
I don't even welcome the numbers that them put forward. Because if my recollection serves me well, 2024 was a bloody year in Jamaica. One of the most bloodiest year in Jamaica in recent time. And for, the statistic to show a 40.3% murder rate. I'm not buying that, personally speaking. Because when you look, that is mirroring what Portia Simpson achieved. That is just 9% below what Portia Simpson achieved in one of the best year in terms of murder rate, which was a low 1,000. I think it was 1,005.
Yes.
Yeah, we should celebrate all of those.
Yeah. So I'm saying that this number that they put out is fictitious, very fictitious.
Yeah. No,
all we have to do is cast our memory back to 2024 and look at what took place in Jamaica in terms of the murder rate, the amount of murder, triple murder, quadruple murder, the mass murder, rampant every day.
I don't think the number is fictitious. I don't think we're always accurate in numbers we put up, but I don't think the numbers are made up. The problem we're having as university teachers and researchers is that you're celebrating a number, there's a drop, you're celebrating it, and it's still very high. And we have had similar drops, and we have not had any solution. So we are saying cautious. So our issue is not that the number is wrong, it is just that they are bamboozling the public because they are looking at 2024 and 2023, and we are saying that 1 year difference doesn't tell us much.
No.
Whenever
make us say something to you. Because the reason why I'm doing this, I remember just tell you straight, Professor and Melton Pot. It's just politics them playing, I mean, this is the truth. It's just politics. Because them feel them can, trick the people, them and say yes, and we'll do this, and the police. You cannot do that. For police, we want the government come and put in some sustainable thing like we can create jobs. We're not talking about bogus thing with them talk now. Because a lot of people are hustling. And if you have things like, remember when we have the PMI with them dismantle, we work on stone. Back in the years, like in the 70s, man, they have some of them kind of council where elders, people can go to elders and talk to them. Your grandmother, your grandfather, and people in the area, you have some people in the area where people can talk them down from this kind of war and revenge and all kind of things. We need to go back there, sir, Because police can't solve crime, Them murder, them can't, not like this.
Of course, they can
stop it. I'm matter of fact, them don't even clear up so much of them. Them cannot stop it. You're right.
The police can do a lot, but not how they're talking about an approach.
Yes.
So let's look at what they have been doing since 1962. We are aware that they have increased the boots on the ground, the number of men and women on the ground. We are aware of that. They have increased their forensic capabilities, they're recruiting more educated people, and so on. Right? We know this. These are things that we can celebrate. However, the general strategy since 1962 is going after the criminals after they have committed the crime. So if you're only going after people after they have committed it, how are you going to solve crime?
This is the same thing I'm saying.
So are you not addressing the conditions that create criminals? You're not attacking the system. So look at some of what they have been doing. Acknowledging the forensic capabilities, increasing the numbers, and and so on. And the police know are more respectful and tolerant than they were when I was a child. You never raise your voice or heckle a police officer, as is why they don't know. So we have to acknowledge a lot of transformation in police citizen encounters. However, generally, we are seeing curfews, cordon search, state of emergencies, stop and frisk, ZOSOs, rapid police response squads, whether it's acid, Ranger 980 acid, right? Or crime management unit under Renato, and there are others. Our approach is generally the same. We're going after the criminals, after they committed the crime, and we are saying that is an important part of policing. You must increase your forensic capabilities. You must provide the tools, right, for your officers. All the things that you're doing, because they must go after people who have committed crimes, and people who, when they're apprehending them, are shooting to kill, right? You don't necessarily have to kill them, but on occasion, you have to use lethal force because the people you are trying to apprehend are trying to kill you, so you have to use lethal force. But while you go after the criminals, you need to address the conditions that create the criminals. And that is not the prerogative of the police. The police can't do that. They're not psychiatrists, they're not social workers, they're not clinical psychologists, they're not community development specialists, right? They're not youth leaders, right? They're not community, they're not regional planners. So we're arguing for a mix of strategies, and do not listen to the current Minister of National Security, who argues that social interventions do not work. That's not true. In Jamaica, social intervention is just something they come up with, not thought out, not backed by research, by science, and they do it. The people were part of it. The people were not consulted, right? Nothing happens and tell you that the people are not. That's not true. That's not true. So the people are interested, but if you don't consult them and use the professionals to have the programs to address the conditions that create the criminals, to break the feeder system for the gangs. So let me give you an example. The Project Star by the private sector, well-intentioned Project Star. They have some very bright young people, very smart. I wish when I was going to school, I was as bright as these people. The only problem with this is that these young people are not trained in violence reduction and in devising programs to reduce violence in a high violent society like Jamaica. Unfortunately, the well-intentioned private sector leaders, they think that if you have a degree from a top school and you're smart, and you're from the inner city, it is automatic that you'll be able to come up with a no.
Not that.
A range of skills and experience. And I, as a product of some of the harshest communities in the country, I don't have my solutions only because I grew up in these communities. It took years of training, working in developed societies, doing research, learning from police, learning from soldiers, work with other researchers, working with psych, working with social workers, working in New York, working in Africa, right? And my colleague Herbert Gale has worked in the Caribbean and Latin America. So it takes years. For example, we know that countries with high homicide rate tend to have a lot of boys who drop out of school. The homicide rate tends to be high because when the boys drop out, the gang becomes their surrogate family, their savior, so they join it. So one major thing that we can do is to keep our boys and girls in school, especially our boys. We break the feeder system because once they drop out, some of them, and they don't see an alternative, they think that the only alternative is to join the gangs. I gave the example this week, speaking to my university colleague and friend Herbert Gale, that in Kingston 13, in 1970, as a child, 20 gunmen came to kill my mother. But how my mother operated, which is how I operate now, I have ears and eyes all over. So they came to the wrong house, so that's why I'm alive. And then we fled. So as a child, I had to go to school next morning. I couldn't tell my mom that gunmen came to kill you, so I couldn't go to school. So I had to go to school the following morning. So you see why I am a professor, right? So, so for her, school was the savior. So my intention was to kill some of those men. Even although police and gang wars killed some, my goal when I grew up was to go find them and kill them. But she pushed school so much that I saw an alternative, a path out of violence, a path out of that kind of situation through school, especially the fact that I was doing well. So schooling is very important, right? So if you can tinker with the schools, and I say it this way, tinker, because the schools are more organized to take care of the needs of girls and not that of boys. And you actually have more girls' schools than boys' schools in Jamaica. That is well established. So if you can keep the boys in school and give them the assistance to do well, right? Right? And move them into colleges, hard universities, within 3 years, you can significantly reduce the homicide rate in Jamaica. And there are other things, right? There are other, and I'm just giving two, and I give the same two over and over. And those who are listening, they'll have to pay. We're not giving any free advice. They have to pay. So we also know that when we were growing up, using the anecdotes because it squares with what we know scientifically, our parents, you would get, my mother was Jewish, so apart from not wanting her children to become criminals and gunmen, there's a Jewish streak in her where it's a high iron fist how she controls her children. So my mother was very strict. So you would get spanking, but you would know what you're getting the spanking for. But there was still love and care and protection. You can go hug her up, she kiss you. You tell her you love her, she love you, and so you get the occasional boss ass, so to speak. But there was love, care, and protection. So right now, as a professional, as a psychologist, we don't support corporal punishment any at all, because my most peaceful friends never used to get spanking. My most peaceful friends, even today. So you don't have to spank your child to get a positive outcome in their own development, moral development. So that situation would not create very dangerous people, right? Dangerous. But we know there are other families where it's brutalization, it's murderation, parenting. We know of a case where the mother was poisoning her son because she didn't want him to join a gang. So she was poisoning him. When I was in first form at KC, one of my friends told me in first form that he wanted to kill his mother. And subsequently he told me what his mother did to him. Time up in ants nest, imprison him in a foul coop, starve him, beat him up. A lot of things, bad things were done to that child. So much so that when he came of age, one of Jamaica's feared gunman, he used to have conversations with that gunman, right? Even though the community wanted him to go to school because he was doing well. So he stayed in school. So the fact that he wanted to kill his mother is what we know in the science. You will hurt people when you're brutalized. So the murderation parenting creates adult killers. So in the work of Herbert Gale and others, mostly Herbert Gale, when he interviews repeat killers, meaning that these are people who kill more than one.
All right, so make I say something now, Professor. Make I say something to you. Because I listen you keenly, right? You know, me I show something to you now. Now, them nearly kill your mom. Back in the days, right? And it in your thought to go and find these guys because you have to kill them back. You have to kill them. You have to kill them because they want to kill them, so you have to get rid of them. And because this, you know, this stick on the book get you out. Do you know so a lot of people I think it's kind of weird. Even the killings right now are going, even with the police. All right, think of this. With a gunman, police, like when you see somebody is killing them, going to house them, kill a man. You don't know if them have kids and them dead, leave them kids. You don't know say it in them brain same way. That's why we have so much revenge. That's why we have said these things to stop. You will never get the killing stop unless the government see what we are telling them. It don't pay. Whether police are killed or gunmen are killed, it will never stop because the kids them are gonna grow up with a revengeful thought. Even if we're going to the force to do it, or if them turn gunman. That's why we have this. That's why we have the problem today, right? Yes. Just
One of the most brutal force in a society right now are some of the policemen them where go around and carry out them type of behavior there. And it'll leave back a long lasting memory upon the youth them. And the youth them are come do the revenge because them sit them father go innocently. So we are look upon it now and I say, well, from the government side of things, yeah, they need to control how the security force operate when them go out to the communities. Yeah, the type of behavior where we see right now, most of it we have to eradicate social, you know, interventions as it coming from property and all these things. You understand? Because I know when a youth grow up, you know, and becomes an adult and take on a job, you know, the responsibility where you have is to perform excellent in that job that you pursue. So it's not supposed to mean that you're supposed to come and break all the protocols because you get power and because the authority that being does not hold you accountable when them find you go out there and do wrong in a society. And we've seen a lot of these things. They're on videos. We don't hear anything from the high command. We don't hear anything, nothing from the prime minister. We don't hear nothing from the Minister of National Security apart from some slang where condemn the youth them rather than, you know, some farmer intervention process in dealing with these youth in the underprivileged society. That simply means when the police go into them places, the police supposed to act professionally. You can't go in there and get the youth them irate because the youth them are suffer from this type of element for a long time in them life. As long some say them watch them father, them uncle, them brother die innocently, and them know who do it, and them carry out revenge in them heart for them people. So anytime you go in, you have to go in with a humility. You can't go in with hostility. But we see a lot of hostility that take place in the community. So we just want to know your take on that, Professor.
Professor, I'm going to play this. I'm going to play this later.
Everyone I'm asking to look away, they say my beer. The man then check me and say, no, them see that video, they're gonna kill me.
It's a young man, you know. And another one, I don't want to show him still. I want to show Professor a video. So let me show him Sterling first. All right. Professor, when Professor come back, no one. Professor, I want you look at that video, right? Look at this. Look at this video. These are the people that carry this. See them attack to a young man there. You see the police saying not that hard. It's about one now in a real life. Because I get something to do. I'm telling them to kneel down. That's the problem. Them can't run, that's a one shot. See them walk up and down, that's good. Hear them attack? Except this helps society. I'm going to show you something now. So them attack, right? All right, this is our compound TV, Jay, now. So you see more of it, right? You see soldiers and everybody. All right, look on this. Hear this now. And tell me what you think of
49 a.m. Pineapple Lane, Bogwalk, St. Catherine. The last time Romario Sterling was seen alive. In this CCTV video, the police are seen talking to the man who was seemingly instructed to kneel. He was taken outside his premises and then the sound of a gunshot. It's unclear how many members of the security forces were at the scene, but we observed them milling around. By this time, Romario Sterling laid lifeless on the ground. The police report on the incident last Thursday stated that the shooting happened at 8:20 p.m.
That's not what happened. They came here in the morning. They had him here. They can see the video. The time span on the video says 7:49. Already had him here with him hand on him head. 7:49 a.m. or p.m. A.m.
It also stated that the deceased man was shot during a confrontation.
No gunshot no come through the zinc. So if him in here, so I shoot after them. Them supposed to stand out the door and shoot after him in here. Right?
The report further said the cops seized a 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 8 rounds. Romario's relatives are incensed.
You pretend the man with him hand on him head. So many uno. So many man pretend one man you know, and he have him hand on his head. I imagine you stoop him down on his knee.
All right, so I could just move this and let me just talk to you. So this some of them get said that was a shootout. Them never know set a video, you know. They can know all out and it catch. Can nothing I catch on video now what we have. So it's a clear murder. Right? Because we're not paying a police to just catch people and just do them like this. Even if you was a bad man and them all it, you can't do this. This a clear murder. Maybe I saw them go somebody, you know, them just want to be, you know. But this is a murder and it can't continue. It can't be take on that. Yes.
So I'll use this and I'll segue from education as a solution because one of the most feared community in Jamaica, Tivoli Gardens. Every year I have students from that community. Very bright, and I always look out for them because I know what they're like, and I know the importance of education and what the alternative is. If you recall, when they went for Chris in 2010, that time Chris leave long time. When them gone in, Chris leave long time, right? Our intelligence suggested that. All right. After everything, and they went into the houses, they took out a young man and they took him at the back. Right? So the soldier was at the front. The policeman took the young man. He was alive. They took him around the back, and then gunshots were heard, and the soldier saw him lying dead at the back of the house in Tivoli. Remember now that that soldier in the Commission of Inquiry testified, and it was so dangerous that they had to have a safe house for that soldier. And even at one time, they had to move him because they felt that his location was compromised. So, if you have members of the security forces who have testified about extrajudicial killing by police officers, why are we so unbelieving that it still occurs? Right? So we have no evidence that the majority of police officers are engaged in extrajudicial killing, but we know that there's a subset who are into this, and the forces taking no, and the government and the police, let's call it high command, So I would call them evil command because you know they exist and you're not taking any action against them. So it's not a high command, unless it's high evil. So it's an evil command because you know that there's this subset. The majority of your personnel are, doing their job, but you have a subset and nothing is done to remove them. So I always dare them. I have family members on both sides of my family. So my surname is an uptown name, but I still have members of both sides of my family killed by gunmen, right? And killed extrajudicially by the police. So I have friends who have been killed extrajudicially by the police. This was long before Indicom. So when I speak, I'm not speaking like some of the people from uptown who get some PhDs from some strange place and then come to pose as experts. We have lived and we are trained at some of the best schools in the world, and we do the research and we go to international conferences and present our work. So we speak from scholarship, from science, from professional training, and from lived experience. So it exists, and I would never say to you that the majority of cops are doing it, but there's a subset there, and they have always existed in the force. So let's go back, and I'm going to use Tivoli again. So Claudia, Massop. The autopsy showed that Claudia did stand up in 1978. There were bullets on his arm.
Yes.
Right? We are seeing repeatedly. And we are acting. And to go, but that's the past. No, it still occurs. I have seen
something to you.
Soldiers,
Yes.
Kick the woman, all women are pregnant, and you already know that some of these women, when you come, they're going to antagonize you. They're going to push you. They are female soldiers. Why they are not with you? That she can woman angle, you kick her. You kick the pregnant woman in her
belly. But because of something to you do.
People trained to fight wars, right? To do police work. And Jamaica Regiment, out of which the JDF came out of the Jamaica Regiment, and they have been doing this before independence. And we still have the crime problem. We still have the high homicide rate. So you must go after the criminals, but we need a range of other measures, interventions to address the conditions that create the criminal feeder system. If we don't do this, we'll continue to have a high homicide rate. But there are many reasons why the homicide rate can fall. And I always say this jokingly, but it is true. If rain falls for 2 weeks in Jamaica, or 3, there's a decline in the homicide rate because the gun boys, they're afraid of rain. They're afraid of getting wet, right? So that's one way. When you have World Cup, homicide rate go down, crime go down. When you have Olympic, right? So independent celebrations, it go down over those days. Why? The killers are celebrating, right? And we also know that they migrate. We have evidence of this. So I have the evidence, and when I am in Brooklyn or when I go to my favorite city, when I go to New York City, I'm in Bronx and Brooklyn. Sometimes and other places, I have to hide because I don't want them to be. Because I have to heal them because we know each other and I'm going to pay respect. But I also know that anything can happen at any time. So sometimes when you see the killings fall, it's not police action, it's migration.
Thank you.
Right? It's migration. So I remember in my religious days on the Sabbath. So I was coming from the temple on the Sabbath. And I saw, and if you're listening now, he's going to laugh. But I see there's a high school friend, right? Who we're from the crib at Maxfield. I saw first time, but I knew that whatever I'm in Jamaica, he is now in New York. And when I left the temple, I saw him. And I stopped. We embraced, we chit chat. And I didn't spend like a minute and a half because I love him. We grew up together, but I know that I have to leave quickly because anything can happen. So they tend to be very mobile and they migrate. The other thing is, we know that the birth rate in Jamaica is declining. We're below the replacement level. In order to have zero population growth, each couple would have to have 2 children. We now have the birth rate is now 1.9 per couple. So we're having less than 2 people per couple. So the population is declining. So if less young people are having children, you're going to have less killers. And over time, the rate will go down. That has nothing to do with the police, right? So I want them, and I always challenge them to come to tell us exactly what they're doing. We have tracked all the police activities in terms of approaches from 62 to the present. And apart from expanding the numbers, modernizing, increasing forensic capability, bringing in more educated people and some other things, the approaches are the same from 1962 to now. So why would you expect anything different? Why? They can't tell us the radically new things, approaches to policing that they are doing now that would cause this decline. And we're saying it's a regular part of the up and down in the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Do not.
You said something important, because before Trump came in, just before that, in that same Andrew Onis time right now, a lot of gunmen migrated, run through the border, including folk. A lot of people run through the border. They know that. A lot of people from all over the place, they run through the border. You have other people and have gun people, and them go through the border. Right? So a lot of them leave from Jamaica. I heard that how much thousands of them said Magadip now, a lot of them in the United States and other places. So them know that. You understand me? And you're right. You're right, the migration. And everything. So, when them talk these things, they say no. Because if we don't change, remember, we not change nothing. But police come and say, hey, me kill Sincere. Remember, them never kill them people last year. Sincere, we kill that and this, it make the murder rate. Come on. How much murders or how much crime when you clear up when you kill the 100 people for 100 days? Oh, no, them don't come and show how much crime them clear up. Because if you say them do crime and you kill them, if you come show me the amount of crime you clear up and tell me say them do it, and show me the evidence that them do it. Can you never draw them to court?
Yeah. So we are for a mixed policy. So if we take the point that when we interview the repeat killers, they will tell you that they were tortured by their mothers, and in some cases both parents, right? So we know the conditions that the children are reared in create adult murderers.
Nobody teach them love. Yes.
So what we have argued most of the time, it's frustration, it's poverty, frustration. The parents don't have the skills and they are frustrated and lack of resources. So we have argued that you need intervention in these kind of families.
Good.
Right? Teaching, parenting, and a range of other skills and provide psychological support, psychiatric support, social work support. Just like how the nurse and the medical social workers would go after the lady go to check up on the child. We need these kinds of things to happen. Other programs. So what we are saying is keep up the traditional policing. Right? Keep it up, but we need a raft of other measures. So I will give the family thing and the school thing. I'm not going into the others because we know, for me, they have to pay because they have all their experts for 60 odd years and they can't solve anything. Right? So I just give some examples. So really, if you notice, they don't engage us in it because they can't. We're in a very violent region, right? And at the risk of offending my Barbadian and my Trinidadian friends and my Bahamian friends, while their homicide rate is low, those homicides, the homicide rate in the Caribbean, English-speaking Caribbean, is higher than a lot of other countries in the world.
No. Yes.
Right? Just follow what goes on in Trinidad and media, the Barbadian media, the Bahamian media. Murder. I used to say that the Caribbean is drowning. In the Caribbean Sea is blood red, right? Is red because of bloodletting. So Latin America and the Caribbean accounts for about 8 to 9% of the world's population, but we account for 30% of the world's homicide. We're in a very violent region. One of the time, when I was a young man of going to university, the police used to come and say we're having the murders because of the drug trade and and Jamaica's a transshipment port, and that's why you have all the killings. Not Nogosa. Of course, you're gonna have killings from that, but we're a murderous lot. There are a lot of dysfunction in the society.
True.
That is generating.
Yes.
So the police officers, that minority, that the police commissioner and the prime minister and the government and their supporters are acting as if these road cops don't exist. They are not psychologically different from the gangsters. Look at they're not psychologically different. From where we hail in the society, if the gangs suspect that you're an informer or they suspect you of anything, they come and kill you. So I wasn't afraid of that, because from I run left Maxfield, I tell myself, I'm not run away again, and I never did. Right? So, but for a lot of other people, the gangs will kill if they suspect you of something. Likewise, some police in Jamaica, you're suspected of a crime, looking for it, they catch you, they kill you, and they say you shoot at them.
That's right. Different from the gang. Yes.
It is mathematically impossible for every single wanted suspect that the Jamaican police go after shoots at them.
It's impossible.
So, all right. So now, let me give you an example. So, Gideon Warrior, and them, when they caught him in the house, right? And soldiers with the intelligence, MIU was very involved in finding him. When they caught him and he was, they thought they were going to kill him, but the JCF had changed. So we know the majority of people are looking to kill him, right? So we know it's not every time they hold him, are going to kill him. And Richie Poo, one of his lieutenants, who got 99 years and is now out, right? So there are other gangsters who I know who are in prison, who is wondering how that man got 99 years and is out already. So that's another story. So when Richard Tyndale, Richie Poo, was captured, he peed on himself. Why? Because he thought the cops were going to kill him. So we know that you have cops who are, and we know that you have a small subset who engage in extrajudicial killing. How we know? We interview members of the police force, especially when they have left, and they will tell you what happened, and they will tell you who.
Yes.
Right? So, and that this is not happening. It is. Even if it's 3% of the police killing is extrajudicial, it is still too much. And this is where Jamaicans for justice get into trouble. Because most people don't know that Jamaicans for Justice mandate is to ensure that the Jamaican state does not abuse the rights of Jamaicans, right? That the state don't abuse the rights of Jamaicans. That's what they are there for. Unfortunately, Jamaicans for Justice have not done a good job of articulating what their mandate is. So they're not going to rush out if a criminal does something. They're mandated to ensure that
but
use power.
Melting Pat, let me say something to you. But Professor, anybody in a modern time now supposed to know if you do human rights activist work like ourselves, right? Human rights activists work to stand up. We are stand up against the justice, against the state when the state commit a criminal act against our own citizen. So, you know, when the police are do them normal police work and them and
problem with that.
About that. But when you do extrajudicial killing or you are the state and you commit crime, we are going to call you out. We have to hold you accountable. And that Jamaica for Justice Power. Right? Right? I'm right. Yes. Yes, Pat.
Yeah. So Jamaicans for Justice is really about ensuring that the state doesn't abuse the rights of Jamaicans.
That's it.
Their mandate is not to say it's not about criminals.
No.
Right? It's about the state ensuring that the state doesn't abuse the rights of Jamaicans. And they have done a job of articulating that. And so my thing is, as a victim, that lady that came with her pictures, if I came with pictures, it's about 5 times what she would come with. Right? So I remember, and I've not been able to write the book. I've been writing a book on garrison communities for a long time. And I was dedicating it to all the people I lost by gun violence. And there were some relatives. And then I stopped at 20. Right? And I said to my nephew, boy, I'm writing a book. And I'm dedicating to all the people we know who were shot and killed, whether by police or gunmen. And I told him it was 20. And so, uncle, you get old, you're sick. Which 20? So he's talking about his time, as a right up, is much more. But I realized it was a psychological block because after a while, it's better not to remember so much of the killing.
Yes.
So I could do that. But I also have a responsibility to support the police when they are doing their work.
Yes, yes. Of course, anybody do that. Yeah,
right?
Anybody do that.
But not because I lost people by extrajudicial killing, I'm gonna hate the police. Or not because I lost family members and friends from by gunmen killing them. It means I can't do that. If I do, it would be what kind of society we would have. And I say it all the time, right? So there are times, when we are, right, but because of socialization, we hold attention, right? We hold the faith, so to speak. There were times when there were killed, and I will tell you the consequences to I won't say if it's during the Prime Minister's time or before. There was a time when people were killed in West Central St. Andrew, right? And I cried because those people should not have been killed. But at the time, I was the foreigner, and the most peaceful of the residents came to me and said, "You are the foreigner. X or Y come to me now. We need the money to buy some shot because we don't want no more with it." So when I realized that more people where I grew up with would have died, you start to think about it. But we realized after I consulted with my friends in West Kingston and elsewhere, because some of them consult, we said, no, we are not going that route. Because when you do that, they might defend the community and thereafter it's innocent lives they're going to kill. So I'm saying that the police should not assume that if you catch someone with a gun, because where the young man is not involved in the gun thing, and a man say, keep it, push it upon him, push the machine upon him. In that culture, if you don't take it and go hide it somewhere and come, they're going to kill you. And it is not a gang member. Right? So the police should not assume a lot of things. That if you're caught with that, there are a lot of courage and pressure, right? So talk about like Tivoli Gardens. For decades, you don't defend the community, you lose your house. You lose your house. It therefore means that you have to understand, you see a 14-year-old with a gun. He needs help.
Thank you, sir.
So it is also the law must take its course. The young man, I'm not going to tell you which part of the country, the young man that they gave the gun and said, put on this, and not a part of the gang, you know. He just lives in the community. After they gave him the gun, guess who turned the gun? Police patrol. And him have the gun in him hand. And the police ease up. And him have to ease up too. Right? And run. And him get shot. And the gun drop. Right? And him family, remember I said the gang, you know. But he knew he had to fire. He couldn't surrender, you know. So we know these things. If he surrendered, he would have died. So he had to fire, but not being a gun boy, the police shot him. He lost the gun. His family had to be moving him around, right? So that people can take care of him, and I'll let that part stop there. And then his family had to pay for the gun. It is because of the extradition. If that young man wasn't a gangster, knew that the police wouldn't have killed him. He would have done something, and he'd be out. He would not have been shot. Remember, there's no statute of limitations, so they can confirm anytime, even though it's a long time ago.
Okay. Pat, you know something? At one point.
Yeah, I just want to ask Professor a question before I have to leave the platform. Yeah. Professor, what do you think about the upsurge between the police killing with civilian right now in Jamaica since the turn of 2025?
All right, so
the numbers relatively high, you know.
So I consult this time when it comes to politics. So I don't have a formal model this time. The two sides come to me, one more than the other. So I tend to not model any elections when I have to consult. And one more than the other one no one, the other one come back door way and thing. Right. So I don't have a model. Right. So after the election, I will crunch my numbers and publish my scientific papers. So why am I saying the last time I did a model in 2020, we used the homicide rate as a predictor, that we could use the homicide rate from 62 to predict the election outcome. Right? And what the results showed us in that statistical model was that an increase in homicide increased the chance of the government winning the election. But that don't make any sense. It's counterintuitive, as my colleague liked. What it means, it doesn't add up. Why, if the problem is getting worse, would the government win? So because we know how the society works and we understand the culture, we realize that when the homicide rate is high, Jamaicans expect tough policing, murderation policing, beat up, kick down, kick off door, kill boy, right? And so anytime the homicide rate is high, the government is very tough policing because the average Jamaican expects, wants, and like this kind of police. Right?
Right, now them get pushed back this time.
I'm aware that some politicians have read the research.
Yes.
So earlier in the year, I said the extrajudicial killings were election killings. And I stand by that because when they do that, the people support it. Right? That kind of killing outside the law is embraced by many Jamaicans, and it redounds to the electoral advantage of the government.
Right now, not continue, but right now, the government get a pushback because remember, but you have a breadwinner, him have a shop and you go kill him with the whole of him family, them are voters and them know say innocent. And you come here, you kick off door. Now what no man. Like come just show one with them bend down. Up to it a grievous. So when them come and do continue now, hey, them going to pay for this. People will get charged for these things. These are people's lives. So it's not like one time when them could have run out and talk them foolishness. Them can't get away with it.
All right. So
yes.
The Badman police era, according to the commissioner, that era is over. That's not true.
Not true.
Not true. But he also said that policing is no longer any one person. But you still have Badman police, and they are the ones doing the killing. The extradition. So they are there. It's just that there are no Badman police stars as in the past. But they are still there and they are responsible for the extrajudicial killings. You see, I have lost respect for a large number of people. Do I expect the police at times to kill citizens? Yes. But not like how some of it is happening. You're evil, you're wicked. Why would I respect you, no matter who you are, no matter the degree you have? Because out of all of you, I could have been a brutal killer. I have the brain, the connections, uptown, downtown, right? But I was socialized differently. And we are saying to you that the institutions that save us, like school, the kind of parents you had, and so on, kind of parenting, the kind of schooling, and there are other things. While you do the policing, you need to have those kinds of intervention. Right now, we're just killing people.
It's bad.
People, police are killing people, and that's so it's a kill for kill. We're murder.
Murder, and then you just murder people. Make I tell you something, but you're against this. I have two brothers, 96, I wasn't in the island. I was doing the island up in like Antigua, Barbados, St. Lucia, Trinidad, promoting music and things. Come back. One of my brother, them take him away. People tell me, West Kingston, them kill him, DJ too. They say, I may never make him come on the trip with me. No, that's a 96. We don't get back one for bury. No, 98. My next brother now, I'm sick from a crash. My father in an accident and two sisters and some other people. And my father passed out at that 85. That like that, but my brother, an ex brother of mine, and him now, trouble. Them call them madman. Now he turn another garbage man, but I carry him and make him get took time up sometime and them thing there. Him does come from Texas and me hear the shot them. Police kill him and tell lie. Them tell lie. Extrajudicial killing and them thing there. So I have it both ways like you personally for the me bury him, Me never get the other one for bury. Me bury him. Barry. You understand? And then when I talk, them send threat. And then I have to face them with the media and think I tell them, come. Yes, me different, And then we have the same kind of mind like you because we have the influence and everything too. But, we want to use our mind and do good and change society. So we speak truth to power. Me no, I say wrong, I call it out of their own businesses.
People tend to know.
Yes.
I got into a cascas.
Yeah. We and Professor Charles for make a run now,
Yeah, all right.
In the but yeah.
So, tomorrow, man. Tomorrow, brother.
Okay. Definitely, my brother.
All right, sir. Yes, Professor.
Got into a cascas at the university.
Yes.
University gave some instruction that I must apologize, I must this. It's not the university, It's the people I grew up with gave strict instructions that you can't go to that department, you can't go there, you can't do it, and make sure that this doesn't happen again. So the university doesn't know, but it's not them. It's the people who I grew up with who gave strict instructions about how I should behave at work, right? And so, and as a matter of fact, even though I wasn't wrong, they say if you never go around this, you know, right? That will not happen. So, very don't, right? And they gave their instructions. So, why am I saying this? Those same people grew up in the same conditions and they live large and productive lives. If you don't trouble them, nothing will happen. If anything happens to me, the invisible people, right? And it's held to pay, right? So I'm saying this because you can grow up in violence and be very peaceful.
And that's it, yes.
Yeah, man. The amount of disrespect we suffer, and people do all kind of things. I saw a colleague at the university, and I had to say, did you know that I had to stop the man from come for you? Because really, that's not necessary. That's not necessary. Right? And I didn't ask anybody, you know. It's year them here, say things happen to me, you know. Right? It's year them here. So what I'm saying is, we have suffered and we still don't engage in the killing. It therefore means there are things in our life, right, our institutions and relationships that nurture us. We are not alone. And we are saying there are interventions. If you take the social worker, the clinical psychologist, the clinical social worker, the psychiatrist, educators, community development people, you know, all the specialists, violence reduction specialists, right? People can design intervention programs, right? You can complement that with what the police is doing, right? In Jamaica, we don't measure what we implement. So if you want to know if a program is working, you start it small, and you measure at the start, and you measure across time to see if the program is achieving its objective. And then if it is, you scale up and then you diffuse it nationally. We don't do these things. It's off the cusp. A man will say we're going to have a homework program or we're going to build a center where we're putting computers in a community when most of the people can't use computer. Some of them not literate. But because it's in their head from uptown, that is what is needed. That's how we do intervention. Or the intervention agencies come, right? Because I get into trouble by your ends, right? Out of east, because I'm my mouth sometime on my own. And the youth them tell me 60% or more of the money that they get from the international agency is used in admin. I say, how come? And they say, Prof, if we don't do this, we're not getting any more money. So the international agency themselves. So I'm saying, when you're training young people, and 35% of the funding you get goes to training, why not 80?
That's it.
And 20% on admin. But the very development agencies, right, give strict instructions. And if youngsters don't follow it, right, they won't get any funding the next year. And so I was livid. So I had to call some of my colleagues at the university who are more experienced in these matters than I am. And they concur that what the youngster was saying is true, right? So those we vote for, not doing enough, or they're just doing the basics. The international agencies, they're regularly involved, but they have a limited understanding of the communities and what needs to be done, right? So we will never ever, despite having suffered at the hands of the police in Jamaica, despite having suffered at the hands of gunmen in Jamaica, I don't want extrajudicial killings for wayward Jamaican young men who run afoul of the law. I don't want that. Right. And I don't want police officers to be killed. I want it to be safe and I want it to be successful. That's the only way we can have a civil society, right? If I should try to exact revenge for every time that I lost someone through violence, where would I be today? What kind of society?
With myself, also me, you know.
And
we try to make a difference.
Because the people who I'm talking about, they went to traditional school, very smart, very, very smart. And those youngsters or men now could have done very bad things in Jamaica and they didn't. One school family. That's it. It's more than that, you know, but are citing those two. And so we are begging, we are pleading that with the policing that is on the way, we need intervention that targets vulnerable families and vulnerable schools.
Yes. And we need back some community policing, right? Of course, we need back that. One time we used to have that, and we have clubs, you know, we have the clubs and the police come city in, and people used to, you know, them like when the police come city in, because when they can't talk to a police, you know, and them talk about problem and something that start, them used to quell that, you know, but them stop it.
Well,
the
science on, in terms of the results of community policing, is not very good. And it's not just in Jamaica, all over the world, but in Jamaica, when we say community policing, it's never usually community policing as it is designed. Because
yes, you're right. Yes.
That the policemen and women who put their lives at risk for us, they require a lot of other skills, right? Apart from the law enforcement skills, the social skills, the psychological skills, meaning that if someone is stressed and is hysterical or is distressed, you have to know how to respond. If someone is grieving, you have to know how to respond, and you have to know where to.
And they do that skill.
How to talk with them, what to do, how to approach them, where to refer them to, and so on. They don't have those. If there are police armed forces in the world, you know, if there's a mental health crisis, like you're suffering from psychosis, and the cops come, in my adopted country, United States, you're likely to be killed, but there are police forces in that country where the officers are in Paris, where they can diffuse the situation, stabilize the person in crisis, and call the mental health emergency team.
Yeah.
It doesn't require any big investment. It just requires thought and bringing the right people together. In Jamaica, as in the Project Star, very bright young people. I wish I was bright when I was young, like some of them. Very bright, very distinguished, but they just don't have the skills that are required for the violence reduction. And I know the private sector is very, they're well intentioned, and I appreciate what they are doing. But I've always said that the last meeting that they had in Montego Bay, crime, whatever they call it, Herbert didn't go, I didn't go, and they had everybody there talking. They had Singh J talking, they had former police officers, they had pastors, right? So I don't understand why they bring the pastors in, right? Because I can give you an example. So a particular church in Augustown, the man them walk through the service with them 16, you know. Just walk through, you know, one door, walk through, and then go over the wall, you know. And the gun boys have killed people in church several times. So the pastor, one, doesn't have the skill and doesn't have the regard. Right? So what I do know, so I'm too old now, I leave it to younger people. If I go into inner city, once they know who I am and where I am from, there's a respect because they see in me what's possible. So I can connect, they talk with me, right? But there are others who are closer in age who can work with them. And we need these kind of people to be recruited along with the professionals right? I can consult the people. Before you design intervention program, you have to consult. I gave the example a while ago where you have the computers, so you can train them to use computers, and they're not very literate, or they have a phobia to technology, right? Or they are shy, right? You didn't consult them before. If you had consulted, they'd have said to you, yeah, right? Or if you did your preliminary study with them, you would know what to do. And their voices and interests would be at the heart of your intervention, right? Along guided by the professionals. No, we don't do that. We just willy-nilly just come up with something. So sometimes when you hear me sound frustrated, and think, people say miserable and aggressive. No, if I was miserable and aggressive, I wouldn't have achieved so much as a professional. I'm in control of myself, right? It is just that I love my country. I don't think I love it more than other people. But I'm going to sound a certain way and I've spoken to the highest level on either side of the political divide, people at the highest level. What I'm saying is new, but they are just interested in killing only, in apprehension only, in bringing before the courts only, right? I remember I was talking to one of my high flyer friends who grew up in Jonestown, and I was mentioning how the most violent city in Europe, Glasgow, Scotland, how they dealt with their homicide problem. The first treated it like an epidemic, and then they devised a series of programs. So the police was involved in it, but there were a series of programs that they implemented. So no one against police action. We need it. We need it. Right? And so they have people who will tell you that state of emergency is working. How can you have a program that violates people's human rights? And you're saying that's a solution?
That's evil, man.
And they bring the person right. So for me, I always say, and I, as an academic, sometimes I don't joke. I said, and I love Jamaican people because they're responsible for most of my education. Right? 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 So I love them, and when I speak because I want things to be better for the people, because I have left people behind, and it breaks my heart to see where they are. And it's a lot of Jamaicans, and they are the victims of violent crimes from the criminals and from the police, because given all the extrajudicial thing work or the culture works in the JCF for that subset who are doing the killing, once they hold you near who so and so live, or them think you know so and so, or you look like so and so,
Yes. Anyway, Professor, I'm for a carry back again, because I see my time, I run out 1.5 quick, people. 1.5 hour, right? So, Professor Christopher Charles, nice to have you tonight, but we're going to carry you back again, because we have some other things to ask about. But give me a call too.
Anytime. So we're thanking the JCF for what they are doing, but they alone can't solve the crime problem. But the joint politicians to act as if they are the only institution that can solve it. Crime is not just caused by an absence of police officers or state of emergency. There are causes. And so while the police is doing their work, the causes have to be addressed. That's the take-home message. Have a good night.
Have a good night. People, about.
We are beat it till the hammer burn. We now make them get in on them and again. None of them boy that we none of them. We in lump sum, we a beat it till the hammer burn. We now make them get in on them and again. None of them boy that we none of them. We alone some rise up the bomb and do.
When people like the government of a country, if the servants protect the people of that country, not to put their life in misery. You understand me, Luciano? Over there, man.
Government, stop pressuring the poor.
Oppression.
Politicians, your judgment coming for so. It's a government in your regiment. Stop pressuring the poor.
We can't take it no more,
Politicians, your judgment coming for so.
Yo, politicians, for the evilest mission, who know we blame. True money and power and fame. We're gonna find out the youth, them really live down the lane. Get them big